Okay, plenty of people have asked me what do I think about the whole thing regarding AI and its implementation uses for music production. So today I'm gonna be having that talk with you. So prepare for some ranting. Here we go. In order to make my arguments, I'm gonna be using as a reference point the announcement of several tools. One of them being Suno Studio, coming from the guys who produced that AI machine that creates slap kind of music things. Also the announcement of Bias X, coming from Positive Grid, the guys who create the bias environment and all of the Spark amplifiers. I happen to own one. And also, I'm gonna be reacting or using the reference point of Resyng, coming from IK Multimedia, which is a tool that claims to be capable of changing your vocal take from your voice to someone else's voice. And that includes from male to female vocals. Yeah, is that good? And even changing the sound of your voice to an instrument. All of these softwares have something in common, the use of AI. But the implementation of the AI varies quite differently between each other. So I'm going to be comparing them and see how ethical they are and how much of an implication they will have in the future when it comes to producing and writing and being part of the music world, okay? So let's begin with Suno Studio. It is a web-based digital audio workstation similar to Logic, Cubase, Pro Tools, you name it. But the big selling point about it is that you can create new stems of audio out of prompts. And also it allows you to use one of the songs that you probably created using the Suno service and split it into stems, allowing you to realign them, remix them, or do whatever you see fit with all of the sounds. Through the use of your keyboard and just typing down some vague cues, the computer behind it will try to create something that might be following your directives. You can start to see where the problems come from, right? This kind of tools is not necessarily speaking in pushing you to be creative, because you might be making the argument, oh, this is leveling the playing ground so everybody with ideas can create music. Yes, that's what I would say if I was stupid. Let me explain. First, we establish that in order to create music, you gotta understand the concept of music. And no, that doesn't mean that you have to go to music school and have a degree in music theory in order for you to become a musician. Far from it. It comes from the idea of you being able to appreciate music and being able to develop the skills to dissect, separate, and understand the correlation between the sounds and its coordination and its interaction with each other that creates the amalgamation of what we call music. And as such, it has nothing to do with any form of academic credentials. It's just you and you alone. When listening to music, it's very difficult for us to describe it through the use of words. That's why we ended up using terms such as fuzzy, hairy, punchy, aggressive to describe the sound of music. But it's usually extremely vague and all over the place because it's extremely difficult for us human beings to describe the sound of music not based on its sound characteristics, because we're not only describing how it sounds, we're also describing how it makes us feel. So let's say that you're trying to describe the sound of a song by Pink Floyd, let's say Comfortably Numb. How would you describe it to someone who has never heard that song before? You might be using terms such as sad, but hopeful, has this expansive, yet personal, introspective feel, but it kind of soars into the air. So you can see that I'm using all sorts of nonsensical words by their own. But when describing a song that you know, and I know, we can understand, and I kind of get close to what the definition of the song could be. But we are never able to do it through the use of words. Now try to make the claim that you can write music just by using this extremely vague language, by putting inputs into a freaking computer that will try wherever it's its best to understand it and present to you something that correlates to that. It's impossible to write good music like that. So you can imagine that what is going to happen is just a bunch of rascals are going to show up there, inputting stuff, and this love that is thrown to them, they're going to organize it in a way that is not terribly stupid, and they will call it music. That's awful. And before you say that I hate on technology, I'm not hating on technology. I happen to have developed a business through the use of technology throughout the entirety of my lifetime. But that put me in that position of being kind of critical and also allows me to understand what's going on with it. And after living through all of the different digital and implementations of technology that had changed the world so much in the last few decades, and being part of it in one way or another, I learned to detect patterns. And what I see coming is not necessarily fun. Now let's talk about Bias X. This is coming from Positive Grid and is the next installment in the Bias series of virtual instruments. For those of you who don't know, Bias is basically speaking a guitar amplifier and effects simulator. It's an app. It's basically similar to what a Guitar Rig, Tonex, THU, the Neural DSP stuff, you name it, all of those guys. What makes it different? Well, now it comes loaded with AI power, which allows you to use your keyboard once again to write down the stupidly vague, super finicky description of the sound that you got in your head, and the computer will show you or will give you an assortment of pedals, amplifiers, cabinets, and settings that will try to follow wherever you type down. How can you create a guitar tone based on an input rather than understanding how the freaking tools that allows you to come up with a good tone work? We've been going through a lot in these last few years, especially when it comes to the guitar world, because plenty of people are complaining nowadays that every guitar player sounds the same. Why? Because everybody's rocking software, and that software comes with presets that are, as the name implies, are signal pads or signal chains already preset for you to test and showcase the capabilities of the software. But people have become so lazy that instead of trying to develop a sound for their own, they go straight to presets, and everybody ends up using the same freaking preset. Now with this AI BS in mind, what is going to happen? No longer people will be using presets. No, of course not. They will be simply typing down the same freaking prompt. And rather than learning how to dial up an amplifier, what kind of effect a particular set of pedals will have on your signal pad and the sound that will come out of your amp, they will never develop that understanding because it's now the computer making the decisions for them. You can see how somebody growing up in this environment will never develop the skills to become the next Eddie Van Halen. And if that doesn't destroy music, I don't know what would. Well, probably because it's already dead. Now the last one, Resyng by IK Multimedia. As I explained before, this software allegedly could change your voice from your own to someone else's voice. In this case, I happen to like it. Why? Because it's actually relying on a proper recording first and foremost. It's not there for you to create a slop. It's waiting for your input, so you have to write the musical phrase for the thing to do its thing. So if you come up with a very bad sounding melody, the only thing that the computer is gonna do is gonna swap your bad sounding melody with somebody else's voice, but it's still gonna be your shit. So as you can see, even though we're dealing with 3 products that are all of them based on the concept of applying AI for music production, only one of them is actually expecting you to be a good musician first, while the other guys are just incentivizing you to be lazy or, even worse, never develop any form of creativity or let alone learning the craft of making music. My concern is not with someone like me who makes a living out of producing music. Far from it. My concern is with what would happen to humanity in the long run. As I stated before, my concern is that little by little, people are letting the computer in their pockets be the one that makes the decisions in their lives rather than the stuff that is supposed to be inside of their heads. That is what is destroying creativity in every form and aspect of our existence. And if you think about it, art is one of the most human expressions we got, because us humans are the only ones who are capable of producing art. Nowadays, with some of these propositions, we're letting the computer be the one who creates art. The computer being totally not a human being. And we're letting the computer replace what is one of the most integral, one of the core elements of what makes us human, be replaced by what the computer produces, which is just an attempt at getting as close as the computer will ever be to what a human being is. AI by its own right is not evil or wrong. The problem lies in the way that we are starting to push it forward. We are letting the computer become our own master rather than being the ones who use that computer to improve our lives. And if we continue going down this road, we're gonna end up in a shitty version of Terminator, 1984, and freaking Fahrenheit, in which we're just consuming slop and being controlled without even realizing it by an AI that is designed to be in control of our own lives. And if you think about it, the algorithms on our phones are already doing something very similar to that. Changed my mind. So there you got it. Those are my hot takes for today. As you can see, I'm clearly passionate about it. I think AI is fantastic, it's a great tool. I am not necessarily excited for the repercussions and the implications that this kind of technology will have with the development of further musicians in this particular case. We are no longer learning to be intelligent, if you know what I'm trying to say. So, this is of course a conversational piece, so please feel free to leave your comments in the comment section down below. Let the thought police and let the computer who is reading your post in this very moment know what you think about it. And of course, let's have a conversation, a civil one, because as you can see, I am not against AI, but I'm very, very, very against the way it's being used right now. So let's talk about it. So before we go, as every single time that I meet you, I gotta remind you that you should never let anybody tell you what to dream about. And remember that I will see you when I see you.